is the editing going so far?
Smoothly and quickly, actually, is what I'll say. There's a multicam function in Premiere.
Yeah.
And there are two sequences in the little film that I made. We're talking about a little movie that I made, where we were shooting with 3 cameras inside my car: a master, a camera in the back seat, and a camera to the left. And so, because those are all jam sunk, I could set them up in the multicam edit. Now, this is an interesting process. You can look it up. It doesn't take very long. And it's so cool because once you sync it all, by the way, you can sync your audio in Premiere as well. I used to use Pluralize. Premiere will sync your audio, right? So you do these selections and you tell it to set up a multicam shoot and to sync the audio, and it pops all of those cameras up in 4 windows in your source window, right? So you have, in my case, 4 angles. Audio sunk, and you drop it on the timeline, and all you have to do is switch, like in a live television show. Remember we used to do live TV, and you're just calling camera shots, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, whatever, and you can work your way back through it, and it is just so quick and smooth. Any take you don't want, you just lift out. When you finish, you accept all of the edits, and every one of those little edits you made is a cut on the timeline, And you end up with a separate process file. Okay, that's the Adobe Premiere editing class for today. Enjoy.
Nice.
That little fucking multi-camera editing.
That's great.
Adobe Premiere. Actually pretty neat.
That's nice.
Makes it smooth and kind of quick.
And no memory problems or anything? Didn't choke on you at any point?
I got to tell you, editing on the cloud is a wonderful thing. I'm editing with Asif on the cloud.
Yeah.
Is a very, very smooth process. And I'm working with a fairly... recent 2015, 16, or something like that. My MacBook Pro.
Yeah,
it's pretty crunchy. Edit on the cloud. Everything's right there. Look. You and I started flatbeds.
Yeah. Pick sinks.
Yeah.
One of these. Yeah.
With that glue.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And now I'm editing on the cloud. Who'd have thought?
Crazy.
Who'd have thought?
Well, we're going to dive right into it today. We're going to start off with a little bit of Kid Vid, and the movie I'm going to start off with is a dog movie. It seems like every time we get Kid Vid movies, and they all get Dove approved from that Dove Foundation, family friendly. They're all dog. I'm just dog movies.
Yeah,
they're never going to go away. Anyway, this is called A.R.C.H.I.E 2. I don't remember A.R.C.H.I.E 1. I'm sure we probably talked about it on this show, and I've completely forgotten about it. It's not that memorable. These are part of the family end of Grindstone. Grindstone makes, again, all those kind of Steven Seagal-y, Bruce Willis-y, crunchy thrillers that wind up being distributed theatrically by Lionsgate. Usually some violent, horrible cop thing. And then they also make goofy family films, and this is one of those. This is, so Grindstone's A.R.C.H.I.E 2. A.R.C.H.I.E is like an acronym, right? Like a spy organization, like A.R.C.H.I.E.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because he's a spy dog. A.R.C.H.I.E 2. That's what it is. Mission Impawsible. May Almighty Heaven help us. Michael J. Fox does the voice of A.R.C.H.I.E, and
good.
It all takes place in and around a circus, and it's not good, but it is what it is. It's, I guess, the kids get to watch a dog do all kinds of obnoxious things, and a few funny performances from various people who obviously need to make boat payments, as Mark would say. So there it is. It's A.R.C.H.I.E 2. We got some superhero stuff here, some Lego superhero stuff from Warner, and they come with they're fun. They come with figurines. Well, they're both Warner. One is Lego, and the other one is not Lego, but they're both DC superhero stuff. Aquaman: Rage of Atlantis is from the Lego and DC Comics superhero line. Comes with a little miniature female Green Lantern figurine, because Jessica Cruz, the female Green Lantern, is in this. So you don't get Aquaman as part of Aquaman, you get a female Green Lantern. I don't really know why they did it that way, but they did. And so why do we continue to have Lego superheroes from DC? I don't know. I don't understand anything to do with the whole Lego obsession. It makes absolutely no sense to me. But if you like it, you'll love this. It's fantastic. Comes with Movies Anywhere if you want to put some Lego Aquaman onto your Movies Anywhere digital locker. Otherwise, I don't know. I guess it's funny and irreverent-ish, kind of. DC's trying to do a lot more of this with their properties, which is to exploit them in a lot of different ways. Some of which are serious, some of which are self-deprecating. That's why we've got the universe on television with Flash and Supergirl and all that nonsense, and Arrow, the whole Arrowverse on TV, and then we have a different one in the movies, and then we also have the Young Titans, which is now a feature film that's very
with the little kids,
very meta and self-deprecating, and it is what it is. A lot more my speed is the DC Universe movie, The Death of Superman, which, of course, is based on the graphic novel story, The Death of Superman, which underlies the recent Justice League arc in which Superman was killed and then resurrected. And this is better than that. I have to be honest. This is better than the second Man of Steel. Significantly better written, more faithful to the concept, better faithful to the original material, and it's really interesting to compare them. And I'm surprised that they allowed this to be done, but there it is. And it also includes a Superman figurine, but not just a Superman figurine. It's Superman with his clothes shredded.
Yeah,
he's in apocalyptic mode there. Yeah. You know, it's actually a cool collectible. So I would say definitely watch this. And this is also Movies Anywhere, and well worth the purchase because it's a really cool figurine. From Disney, we get Star Wars Rebels, the complete season 4. Our friend and colleague Luke Wilson likes this a lot more. He thinks this really plugs a hole in the Star Wars universe, especially with the new films. And I guess I can see that. It's a little too in deep for me. I've never really gotten into the Rebels series, but it's fine. It's fine. A lot of exclusive content on it. It has a real fan following. And that's on Blu-ray. And then on DVD, we get Disney's Elena of Avalor, Realm of the Jacquins. This is the newest member of the Disney princess line. Is strictly a television princess, but Elena of Avalor is a gigantic marketing bonanza. We go to Disneyland fairly often with my daughter, and there is just Elena merchandise everywhere. This is pretty routine. It has 10 bonus shorts on it, and this is basically Realm of the Jacquins parts 1 and 2, 3 Jacquins and a princess, and shapeshifters, all from the television series, and then 10 bonus shorts, which are all perfectly fine. And then with Big Hero 6, the series. I never liked this movie. Other people, it didn't. Did you like it?
Oh, it was okay.
It's a Marvel thing, you know.
Yeah, with that sort of Japanese veneer.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I know it was compared to The Incredibles in some quarters. Doesn't really come close to me. Anyway, they do straight 2D animation for the television series version of it. They divorced it completely from Marvel. It is now an entirely Disney-branded effort. But this has 7 episodes on it and a bunch of bonus shorts as well, 6 bonus shorts, and that's all perfectly fine. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's there. From Nickelodeon, got a couple from Nickelodeon. Rusty Rivets. This is a new show of theirs, and has a bonus Paw Patrol episode on it. This is 8 episodes from the Rusty Rivets show, which is. It's cute, this is a kid who's got, little robot buddies, and, they make all kinds of fun things. It's kind of the Inspector Gadget itch. It scratches it. It's perfectly fine for kids. More my daughter's speed, even though she's never seen it, is Nella, the Princess Knight Royal Quests. You can only get this at Target, by the way. This is a Target exclusive for the time being, at least. Nella, the Princess Knight Royal Quests. And this is 8 episodes from that show, which is cute. She's kind of a swashbuckling girl knight person, and it's a little bit medieval. It's sort of in the Bubble Guppies neighborhood. 20 Music Tales, Get Up and Dance, is a PBS Kids potpourri of stuff from tons of shows. There's stuff here from Word World, Caillou, Daniel Tiger, Peg Plus Cat, Dinosaur Train, Wild Kratts, just tons of stuff here. Odd Squad, and it's just all dappled together from all these different series to keep kids interested. It's babysitting basically. 2 other ones from PBS Kids. Nature Cat, Onward, and Pondward is one of the better animated shows. It's been on PBS in quite a while. 7 different episodes here. It's it's kind of like Ren and Stimpy for kids. Being that Ren and Stimpy was never for kids.
No.
No. So Nature Cat and has a bunch of friends, and they are very environmentally oriented, but they're tweaked. Arthur, DW and the Beastly Birthday. This is from the Arthur series, which is fine. It's 2 different Arthur episodes, and it's perfectly cute and skews very, very young. And then lastly, a couple from Cartoon Network, which skews a little bit older. Steven Universe, Cartoon Network series, The Heart of the Crystal Gems. Never really got this show. This has about 10 episodes on it, and then we've got a much more significant DVD of T.K.O. Let's Be Heroes, T.K.O. I never watched this before. This is the first time it's ever been on DVD. Doesn't really work for me. It's just a little too cute by half, but that also has a kind of a built-in Cartoon Network following, apparently.
Yeah.
So let's move on to new movies.
New movies, indeed. The newest of the new, Avengers: Infinity War.
Oh yes, on 4K.
4K Ultra. Hey, look, packed with everything you can possibly think of. Over 2 hours of bonus materials. Look, here's the deal. Didn't much care for this movie, and the notion of the bonus material might be interesting, but I didn't much care for this movie. This movie was shaped to service each one of these actors. Really, I was about to say characters, but not really. It's not the characters they're servicing. They're servicing the actors.
Yeah,
Robert Downey Jr. X number of words, of lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
And once you start shaping a movie like that and spreading that out, doling it over all of these movie stars, you don't have a movie anymore.
Once you realize how many characters from preceding films must be in this movie, including all the Guardians of the Galaxy, including everyone from Black Panther. Not just Black Panther. Everyone from Black Panther.
And they've all got to say and do things significant.
Like a big chunk of this movie takes place in Wakanda.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the preceding Avengers, which multiplied with every succeeding movie. And by the way, the previous 2 Avengers films are also out now in 4K.
Yeah.
They did not furnish them to us, but those are also out in 4K if you want to do a whole 4K bonanza like Luke did. Luke did a 4K Avengers marathon in his living room last week. Anyway, if you do the math, you wind up with so many characters in this movie that over the course of about 2.5 hours, the only way everybody gets to share some kind of screen time is if they basically have 40 seconds of dialogue.
Yeah,
By then you're done.
And you're just done. And then because you got to do all the action.
Yeah.
So
because the action takes up more 2/3 of the film.
So yeah, I don't know. I did not feel like I was watching a coherent film. I felt like I was watching a connecting. It's like when you have those toys and you have the one piece that's in the middle and everything else sticks on that piece. That's what this is.
Here's what I think is kind of brilliant about the whole Marvel thing, though, and why I'm a little more forgiving of the film than I think you are. So they have designed this not to necessarily have a long-term shelf life, but this is basically a television soap opera designed as big budget movies stretched out over about 25 years. It's
like The Young and the Restless.
It's hugely ambitious, and they've planned this out. Kevin Feige plotted this stuff all out. So this film was designed specifically to come months after Black Panther and to capitalize on all of that Black Panther-y momentum. Black Panther is now, the 3rd highest grossing film in history, or at least in the United States domestically. Just crossed 700 million, something outrageous. And this is designed to take all that momentum, assuming that all those people have seen Black Panther, so that in that movie, when Captain America says, "I know a guy," and you cut to Wakanda, everybody goes, "Woo!" You got 1,000 people screaming.
The woo moments.
The woo moments.
This is constructed.
And it is also a tease for another movie, which for those who haven't seen it, you will get it at the end. A tease for another movie that comes out next year, which will then be basically a prequel to the next Avengers film. Which will then tie up these loose ends, because that next film is going to be a backstory. It's all plotted in a very soapy way, and I give them credit for it. It's quite smart.
At least they are, in fact, thinking about it. Unlike, to some extent, those Star Wars movies where they're not thinking about it very hard at all. Packed full of all kinds of introduction by directors Joe and Anthony Russo, all kinds of behind-the-scenes films. deleted scenes, gag reel, you name it. It's on this Blu-ray for Infinity Wars. Go for it.
So, Affairs of State. I had to cover this for radio as well. Not a terribly interesting political thriller. Basically about a political Washington D.C. insider who gets involved in kind of there's a blackmail scam. And it turns into a kind of political thriller and goes into allegedly unexpected areas, even though you know exactly where it's going to go. There's some surveillance stuff going on, and Thora Birch plays this hacker who may or may not be working both sides. And it's anyway, she's very very liberal, but not beyond being not beyond selling out. But he's not beyond selling out either. Anyway, it all kind of. Isn't very credible because politics when you turn on the TV is a lot more interesting and dramatic these days and seems more fictitious than what's in this movie. And their tagline doesn't help. Politics as usual. Well, not really. Yeah. Politics as usual is more interesting than this movie.
Yeah.
Thora Birch, Mimi Rogers, Adrian Grenier, David Cornsweet is the main guy in this. It's an okay cast. It's a decently made movie, but really not that interesting. And this is again from the Grindstone Factory, output through Lionsgate.
Yeah, and I got to think that they were expecting for that to do a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they did too.
As this, we saw this film under a different title, but it's called Yellowbirds.
Yeah.
Here,
Mm-hmm.
a movie about young soldiers who go off to the war. Jennifer Aniston is the mother of one of them. You got Ty Sheraton and Alden Ehrenreich and Tony Collette and Jason Patrick and Jack Houston. And so here's the thing about this movie. Again, this is a movie that's actually quite well made, acted, executed. The war scenes, battle scenes, all of that. But no, this movie does not work for a number of reasons. Despite all of the and I gotta believe that. I gotta believe that they thought that this would be a movie we'd be talking about
at awards time.
Season.
Yeah,
I'm looking at Sundance on here. I'm looking at all the little things like that. It's really interesting how these things are calculated so badly and just missed the mark. Special features include the making of Yellowbirds, but no, all these young movie stars did not make for a particularly good movie.
Nope.
This was meant to be this year's Hurt Locker.
Yeah, that's what they were hoping for.
Yeah. But I don't know. You cannot go back. You can't reach back.
It's like Hurt Locker crossed with Casualties of War.
Yeah.
Is kind of what the plot is.
One old De Palma film. De Palma,
Yeah, it doesn't work. Anyway, weird little genre splicing kind of exploitation, arty exploitation, whatever you want to call. A movie here called Pickings you like this?
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
It's an odd little offbeat movie. Usher Morgan directed it. And they took a $1.50 and turned it into quite a stylized little thing. It's kind of it's sort of like a modern noir, but it's different. It's not like an ordinary noir. It's a noir it feels a little bit of a throwback, kind of like a Chinatowny. Yeah, might say anyway.
A little westerny.
Yeah, a little westerny, a little Chinatowny. Anyway, it's there's not much you can sort of say to unravel the plot. But if you like noirs and if you like offbeat noirs, if you like things that have a little bit of a lot of style for not a lot of money, you might want to check this out. It's called Pickings. By a very talented new filmmaker called Usher Morgan. So give it a while. The tagline is good. They picked a fight with the wrong woman.
Yeah,
that doesn't really. It's not.
Well, the woman's name is Pickens.
It's not. It's not. I Spit on Your Grave.
No,
I don't want anybody to think it's one of those revenge movies. It's not.
No. She's running that bar and she's minding her business, and these guys come in and they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and she's like, "No, you're not."
Yeah, and that's it. That's as much as you need to know.
As much as you need to know. The original National Lampoon's Van Wilder, starring Ryan Reynolds, of course. 2002. To be honest with you, I have no memory of this movie whatsoever. I know I saw it. I reviewed it. I actually wrote a review for Box Office Magazine for it. This kid, Ryan Reynolds, when he was a kid, way back then.
Yeah, that was his first big thing.
He used to walk his dog down to the dog park with me and Rich to take it easy down to the dog park, and we'd see him all the time. and he'd come on over with his dog. Zero. I had forgotten Tara Reid was in it.
Yeah.
I had forgotten. That's not John Cho. It's the other one. Harold and Kumar.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Kumar. Kumar. I'd forgotten Kumar was in it. So no, this movie actually made no impression on me whatsoever. But they made 4, 5, 6, 7, a lot of them.
Yeah, but he wasn't in any of the other ones.
He got a real career, smart guy. Nevertheless, this is the unrated version
on 4K.
On 4K, and I can't imagine what it was before if it wasn't filthy. Anyway, you got 2 discs here, all kinds of stuff on the deleted scenes, outtakes, all kinds of blue book, all kinds of stuff you can think of. National Lampoon's Van Wilder, the unrated version. Man, 16 years ago, really?
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So we've got some Warner Archive collection stuff. Captain Thunder is the only one on DVD-R this week. The other 2 are Blu-rays, and this is from the 1930s, and it's pretty. I mean, this is an old Vitaphone, an early talkie from Vitaphone, and it's basically a border tale with Fay Wray, and most of those border tales are pretty hokey with some really kind of embarrassing Mexican stereotypes. Like in this one, because you have a Hungarian actor playing El Capitan Thunder. It's ridiculous, but there is a kind of a bizarre charm. There's let's go. We need a Mexican actor. Where can we find a good Mexican actor? I know. There's that Hungarian guy.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's how it was. That's how it was at the time. Anyway, the actor is Victor Varconi, and he basically plays just a rascal, a Latin rascal, as they often wound up in these things. Even better is Comandante Ruiz. Comandante Ruiz is played by Charles Yodels. It's hysterical. And then of course Fay Wray plays Inez. There's nobody even remotely. Not even remotely. So anyway, it's fine. It's enjoyable only because it's kind of early talkie era kitsch. The other 2 on Blu-ray. Fantastic, both of them. Absolutely fantastic. One is the very underrated Supergirl, which was ripped at the time.
I'm sorry, love that movie with Helen Slater and oddly Christian Slater. Fell in love with her immediately.
Faye Dunaway. Faye Dunaway. I was still on Faye Ray from the previous and the wrong Faye. Faye Dunaway is fantastic in this. There's a vintage documentary on the making of the film, which is great. There's a commentary by Jeannot Swark, who directed it, who, of course, did one of the, I think it was Superman 2 that Jeannot Swark directed. Yeah. So they went and got somebody who had a little bit of Superman background. I mean, look, is it perfect? No. But it actually is a lot of fun.
And she's really fantastic. And Helen, she plays Supergirl's mother on the Supergirl television show, by the way, which I think is clever.
It's very clever.
And
terrific.
Still ridiculously beautiful.
I love all that stuff because that's why they went and got the guy who played the previous Flash to play Flash's
dad on the show.
Great. I love that they do that stuff. It's a lot of fan service. So this is on Blu-ray. Supergirl on Blu-ray. Cannot get enough of it. Absolutely love it. And Peter O'Toole is in this, as is Mia Farrow. Come on, Peter O'Toole, Mia Farrow, Faye Dunaway. Yeah. Give me a break.
And this is introducing Helen Slater,
fantastic,
as Supergirl.
And then the last one from the Warner Archive Blu-ray line this week is Village of the Damned, which is so priceless and so classic. Creepiest kids in the world. It's just one of the all-time great creep factor movies. Directed by Wolf Rhea and released at the time by MGM. George Sanders and Barbara Shelley star, but really it's all about the creepy kids. This is from 1960. It's kind of riding the Invasion of the Body Snatchers wave of red paranoia, which gets projected into all kinds of interesting science fiction films. And really, honestly, this is just great. It's so great. Creepy kids, man, the creepiest kids ever in any movie.
Indeed. I have got the 3-movie Predator collection here. The first 3 Predator movies, Predator, Predator 2, and Predators.
Yeah.
So
with another one coming out soon.
With another one coming out very soon.
Shane Black.
With the Shane Black, original,
Yeah.
Right here. Arnold's movie, 1987, fantastic. John McTiernan directing. You and I were talking about him. A project we were working on. Solid is just wonderful movie. Carl Weathers, Bill Duke. Can't go wrong with Predators.
Yeah.
Predators 2, set it in Los Angeles. I did the junket for this movie in 1990.
Danny Glover,
Ruben Blades, the whole guy. Didn't quite. I don't know. It was a weird thing. Love Danny Glover, and it's not the same. And then, to be honest with you, Predators, that 2010
Yeah.
movie with Adrian Brody and Topher
Yeah,
Grace, and I'm
yeah.
like, what the hell's going on here?
Because now we've got a feuding predator. We've got eugenics in the predator world. We've got feuding species of
Yeah.
predators, like different species.
And next thing you know, you got the Predators versus the aliens,
And-
because that's a whole little crossover there.
Well, and now apparently the Shane Black film's got some kind of now genetically modified predator that's the size of Godzilla. I don't know. I'm not quite following, but I trust Shane Black, so I'm hoping the new film will restore some legitimacy.
I definitely had to tap out after that 2010. Nevertheless, if you're a big Predator film fan, you're going to want to get this. Only thing that bugs me about this, the movies are there, 4K, Ultra DVD, all that's all fine, but nothing in terms of special features. Not really. You got your movies, but that's about it. I would prefer the special features because all of these have been out before and they all have special features on them.
Yeah,
So why didn't they put them
you're
on?
getting this because of the 4K.
Yeah,
so
I guess that's just getting the upgrade is what you're getting. Yeah.
So the first Piranha, let's kind of jump back here. So Jaws was directed by Steven Spielberg, which then inspired an endless number of exploitation films that riffed on it, that were shark or some other kind of a creature in the water oriented. The most famous of which was Piranha, which was a Roger Corman production directed by Joe Dante.
Yes.
Joe Dante, who of course became very close friends of Steven Spielberg and would go on to direct Gremlins for Spielberg and would direct an episode of the Twilight Zone movie along with Spielberg and George Miller. And then Piranha 2 came along and they couldn't get Joe Dante, so they hired a young special effects technician who had been working on a lot of Corman stuff by the name of, what's his name? How do you pronounce his name?
Mr. James Cameron.
I never heard of him. Anyway,
people forget that guy. He was an engineer. I mean, he is an engineer. That's what he was doing. He was building crap.
Yeah. And when we say, that's right, we should point out when we say he was a special effects guy, we don't mean he sat in front of a computer and created 3D CG models.
He built stuff.
He built stuff.
Yeah.
He did what special effects guys used to do, which is akin to being an architect and an engineer and a builder all in one. So anyway, yes, Cameron directed Piranha 2 right before he would go on to direct Battle Beyond the Stars, which is where he met many of
the Catherine.
he met everybody on that.
Galan.
Yeah, and Galen Hurd, and yes, he would also meet James Horner, who scored that film, and all the people that he would continue to collaborate with. So, but it's interesting to watch Piranha 2. You definitely see Cameron in this. There's no question that he realizes he's taking it from somebody else, just as he took Aliens from Ridley Scott, and made it his own.
Yeah.
He's doing a similar thing here. This is kind of so. If you're a Cameron completist, you will be very, very interested to watch how this works. And it's not without names in it. I mean, Lance Henriksen is in it, and Lance Henriksen is in it, and I guess all it's really got going is Lance Henriksen. So anyway, that's
they
it.
still make those movies. Piranha 3D. They still making those stupid movies.
Piranha 2: The Spawning.
Crazy.
All right.
What have I got here? I remember this movie. This is actually a very good movie. James Belushi, Charles Grodin, Taking Care of Business. I got to tell you, this movie, this was one of those little odd movies. For one thing, it was a weird moment there when James Belushi, John's younger brother, became a movie star after coming off Saturday Night Live. And he had a run of about, 8, 9, 10 years or so where James Belushi was a movie star. And he made a whole bunch of movies, some of them mediocre, some of them better than others. This one I thought was funny, and it's mostly because of Charles Grodin. And because Charles Grodin made a number of movies back. It's The Only You. It's just a number of movies where he was just the funniest thing in the world. Midnight Run with Robert De Niro.
Yep.
And Joey Pants. Just all kind of these wonderful little movies that they just don't make these movies anymore. This is one of them. Hollywood Pictures, of course, that company doesn't exist anymore. Arthur Hiller directing, 1990 film. Hector Elizondo, Paul Mazursky. It's just a really, really neat little movie. And they just don't make them anymore. Special features include a commentary by screenwriter Jill Mazursky and a few other things. A neat movie starring the kind of folks that don't star in movies anymore. James Belushi, Charles Grodin, Taking Care of Business.
So we've got some cool cult stuff here. Starting off with Streets of Vengeance from Slasher Video. Once again, this has just one of these great taglines. And it's probably funnier if you're looking at the picture, because the picture's all like a whole bunch of 80'd out. And this is a relatively recent film, I should point out. This is from 2017, but it looks like a movie from the 80s. It looks like an exploitation movie from the 1980s, where everybody's all kind of 80'd out, like Lost Boys style. This badass looking woman with the fingerless gloves, and, studded necklace, and Streets of Vengeance. And the tagline is, "Vengeance belongs in the streets, and the streets belong to Mila." Well, I guess Mila's bad.
Real Michael Pare, and Willem Dafoe, Streets of Fire.
Oh, Streets of Fire, very much a model for this, for sure. And I mean, this is it feels like it would have been made in the 1980s. There are no names in this per se, but the whole idea about this ex-porn star who turns kind of vigilante, and she's kidnapped by this weird kind of sexist cult, and there is a little bit of like an 80s I Spit on Your Grave vibe going on here. So it knows what it is. It knows that it's an exploitation film. It knows that it's tapping into a certain kind of an audience, and they just totally play it to the hilt. It's grindhouse, but it's 80s grindhouse, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's called Streets of Vengeance. And then another one here called Dead Shack, which is pretty straight up horror stuff, kind of in the 80s 90s vein. This is also a throwback, but made recently in 2018. And it's a bunch of kids in the woods and horrible, monstrous things that are up there. And it's a little bit of Friday the 13th, a little bit of Hills Only Have Eyes. Or Hills Have Eyes.
And
a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's all that stuff kind of wrapped together in a zombie movie. And it's called Dead Shack, and you're not watching this for the script. You're watching this just for the zombie effects and the gore effects.
1978, right before he made Halloween and started that run of movies, John Carpenter made a little movie called Someone's Watching Me.
Oh, with his then wife, Adrienne Barbeau.
Oh, my goodness. It makes me dizzy just thinking about her. Starred Lauren Hutton, Adrienne Barbeau, Charles Cyphers in the film, about a woman who moves into this fancy apartment complex, and, a stranger is sort of watching her, sort of peeping Tom kind of thing, cat and mouse game sort of ensues. This is a new 2K scan with an audio commentary from Amanda Reeves. You Are in the House Alone is another one of those wonderful John Carpenter films, and a little profile of John Carpenter and TV promos for the movie. Look, it's a John Carpenter film, fairly early John Carpenter. He was really good. I'm looking to see if he did the score for this, as he has been known to do. It does not music composed. No, Harry Zuckerman, not a John Carpenter score. Very interesting. Yeah. 1978. Someone's Watching Me. You got one there? Go ahead.
I was just going to hit a couple of Arrow titles. One, they're both from 1972. The first one is from the Italian giallo director Massimo Dallamano. Wow, I did not screw that up. I'm very proud of myself. It's called What Have They Done to Your Daughters? And this is, it's giallo. It starts gory and it gets gorier, and it deals with, there's a prostitute ring of underage girls. And they are subjected to things by people that it's not appropriate for me to even mention on this show. You can fill in with your imagination. I wouldn't call it a great thriller, but it certainly holds down a very important place in the history of giallo. And that is explained in all of the extras, which include a commentary from Troy Howarth, who wrote So Deadly, So Perverse, 50 Years of Italian Giallo Films, which makes the movie better. I would almost recommend watching it, listening to his commentary while you watch it, because the movie will disgust you less and it will mean more. So if that interests you, it's a very good Blu-ray transfer. Somehow they kept hold of the elements in a beautiful way. That's worth it. The next one, this is even gorier, but it's more significant at the same time. It's Herschel Gordon Lewis's The Gore Girls, which also includes the 1971 film This Stuff Will Kill Ya, which was a hillbilly movie that he made the year before. Now, Herschel Gordon Lewis, who we talk about a lot in our Schlock documentary of some 16 years ago or 17 years ago, Started off making nudie cuties. Herschel Gordon Lewis was not a movie maker. He was
No.
just he was a guy in an office, and he decided he wanted to make better money, and
Yeah.
movies was where it was at.
Yeah.
So he teamed up
Particularly exploitation movies.
with David Friedman, made nudie cuties, got bored with that, did some gore, did some other wacky stuff like hillbilly stuff, which they call hicksploitation. There were a few of those at the time, not too many. Anyway, that's all here together. The Gore Girls, you don't need to know them. Look, it's somebody's slaughtering go-go dancers. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Gore is a play on go-go.
Go, yeah.
That's the joke. Ha ha ha. Anyway, Lewis does a commentary on here that's pretty great, as well as on This Stuff Will Kill You. And then there's a bunch of other stuff on here too. Little featurette things and interviews, and it's all significant. Look, Lewis is an important figure, and whether you like the movies or not, it's hard to ignore him.
Yeah. They sort of shaped a genre for several generations.
They
right
did.
there. The Changeling, man, I had forgotten about this movie, Peter Medic film, a horror movie.
Not to be confused with Clint Eastwood's Changeling. With
Angelina Jolie, The Changeling. Exactly. That's a movie about 1920s kidnapping.
Yeah.
This is a horror film with George C. Scott, and there's a baby involved, but it's not the different kind of thing. This is just a good, solid, still stands up a horror movie directed by a wonderful director, Peter Medic. The Craze and the Ruling Class and Romeo is Bleeding. Romeo is Bleeding. Oh man, the movie's amazing. I still love Romeo is Bleeding. But this is a solid as a rock film too. The DVD here from Severin is full of special features, audio commentary with Peter and the producer of the film, and several little movies, and the music of the Changeling, and just all kinds of stuff. So you look, if you're a horror fan of classic horror, particularly the kind that still hold up after a few decades, the Changeling is what you're going to want on Blu-ray.
I got a bunch of stuff from Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar Syndrome does some of the best exploitation stuff. They find really, really cool old movies, and they clean them up, and they just do it. Their library is really, really great. So we've got a whole bunch of interesting stuff from Vinegar Syndrome. I'll do the best I can to do justice to all of this. Liquid Assets, and in the way the logo's done, the S's of assets are made like dollar signs.
I love it.
Liquid Assets is a pretty fun exploitation film from 1982, very much in the 1982 vein of things. Mm-hmm. I want to say this is kind of like a. Oh gosh, it's like taking let me think. Bachelor Party might be the best example. So
yes.
The sex comedies at the time, a lot of them revolved around how are we gonna, well, I'm not gonna. I'll give it away. So yeah. I won't. I'll back up a little bit on that.
Not quite Porky's.
Maybe even the better one might even be the Risky Business.
Oh, Risky Business. That's right.
Maybe a better.
It's sort of a dark caper at the center of it all.
It's there's a money raising endeavor going on. So anyway, this is like Risky Business except a lot riskier and a lot better business. So that's what this basically is. But with the exploitation cast and obviously no studio looking over your shoulder and saying that you can't go that far. That's a little bit too edgy. No, they go all the way. And some actors whose names will mean something to you, like Samantha Fox and Ron Jeremy. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at that. And they did a great job restoring this, too. There's an audio commentary with Robert Findlay, who was the producer, cinematographer, and editor. That tells you everything you need to know. Also interviews and trailer and a lot of other fun stuff. Liquid Assets. And then also from Vinegar Syndrome is The House of the Dead. Now, this is a horror anthology made for next to no money in 1978. And here's the deal. You got this creepy dude who's out wandering around during a rainstorm, and who takes him in but a mortician? Because when you're wandering around in a rainstorm, the first person to take you in is always going to be a mortician.
And that's where you want to stop.
And the mortician has stories. Oh, does this mortician have stories? And each one of those stories becomes an actual story in the anthology, kind of Twilight Zone or what was the one on TV?
Like Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that kind of a deal.
It's
decent. It's all right.
Bram Stoker's Shadowbuilder from MVD video. This is adapted from a short story by Bram Stoker. It's about a Catholic archbishop actually who summons a demon. because he wants the demon to destroy the world. The demon mostly just sort of destroys him and everybody in this small town. That sets folks against one another. What I like about this movie is that you got yourself a young Michael Rooker in this movie. You got a young Kevin Zegers in this movie, and a young Tony Todd in this movie. Adore me some Tony Todd. Lots of special features here, high definition transfer, including an audio commentary by the director Jamie Dixon. A featurette on the making of the film. It's not exactly a classic horror film, but it is pretty neat. Shadowbuilder from Bram Stoker, MVD Rewind Collection.
So, interesting, another one from Vinegar Syndrome, and this is not an exploitation film. This is called Buddies. And this is a significant film from 1985 because this is technically the first film to deal with the AIDS crisis. It was, we think of, like
Longtime
Companion, and we think of Philadelphia. But Buddies was actually the first one. It was shot on 16 millimeter.
Is that the one with Steve Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi? No.
No, okay.
No Steve Buscemi in this. No. This is a real shoestring budget, shot on 16 millimeter. Which they have it made look so much better than 16 has any right to look. I'm not sure if that's even necessarily a good thing. And it was very controversial at the time. Didn't really get a lot of play. It's very short, 79 minutes long. It just blows right by. But it's really good performances from actors who did nothing and have gone on to do nothing. And it's worth watching because it's really raw and it doesn't. It's not beholden to. Any agenda other than its own. It's quite a fascinating movie, and it's interestingly, I don't want to call it dated, but it definitely is of the era. I'll just say that it's very much of the era.
And what year is that from?
85. 85,
yeah,
first one.
Yeah, right at the top of the.
Right at that moment, and it's pretty tough to watch in places. And then we also have volumes 3 and 4 of a series that Vinegar Syndrome continues to put out. 5 films, 5 years. Basically just a way of taking their library and monetizing it by making these historically significant. And it's very, very interesting. So the first one, Volume 3, Golden Age Erotica. Most of the films are from the mid to late 1970s, and then there's one from the 1980s. There is Corporate Assets, Dracula Sucks, The Vixens of Kung Fu, Tropic of Desire, and Baby Rosemary. That tells you everything you need to know about all those. The other set, Volume 4, is Horror and Exploitation, most of which are all over the place. There's one from the 60s, 3 from the 70s, 1 from the 80s. A couple of these actually are kind of real cult classics. The films here are Cry Wilderness, Vampire Hookers, which is legendary, frankly. Vampire Hookers is outrageously funny. That's from 1978. John Carradine was in that. It's fantastic. And then Evil Come, Evil Go, The Cutthroats, and Teenage Seductress from 1975, which is also kind of a thing. Yeah, for sure. So Horror and Exploitation and Golden Age Erotica, 5 films, 5 years line. From Vinegar Syndrome, I would recommend you also get volumes 1 and 2. It's a great line, and especially if you like exploitation films and cult films, it's terrific.
Little TV?
Yeah, let's hit the TV.
Arrow, complete sixth season. Includes an inside crossover, that whole Crisis on Earth X, which I think you plowed your way through.
Yeah.
Past
I did.
With the crossover with the Flash and all that kind of stuff. Plus all 4 DC crossover episodes of that. So you get the Arrow, you get a little bit of the Flash. This is, of course, the story of Oliver Queen, who went missing as a young man, and
on the
comes
island,
back on the island, and he recognizes the Arrow. It's a green arrow.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's kind of whiny in this series. Not as bad as that kid in that other series.
What I really sort of enjoy about him in the Arrowverse is that whenever he's around anybody else, he's always the grown-up in the room. He's like Batman, right? Yeah. And the difference between and the thing that Green Arrow and Batman have in common is that whenever they're around all these people with super powers, they always say, "Now listen, I want you all to listen to me, and just remember, I don't have any power."
Yeah.
They're like on top of it. They're the boss until they start whining. Don't leave me behind because I don't really do anything.
I can't fly.
I can't fly.
But I do have my charge card because they're both rich.
But I'm still the boss. I'm still the boss, right?
Danny and the other one. Green Arrow. If you're into that, SEAL Team season 1. This is, of course, this is the David Boreanaz show. Somebody told me I don't know.
Not to be confused with 6, which
No,
we talked about last week.
6, which is about SEAL Team 6. This is SEAL Team, which is a show not about SEAL Team 6, but about a SEAL team. It stars David Boreanaz. And somebody told me this. I can't remember who it was, but of course, David Boreanaz was Angel on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the original Buffy, the middle 90s, something like that. Then, of course, he did the spinoff Angel for several years. And, of course, he just came off several years of the television program Bones.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody told me that David Boreanaz is one of the richest men in Hollywood. And if you count it up, he's been on network television regularly and as executive producer and star of 2 shows for 20 years.
That'll do it.
I think they might be right about that.
You know, it's amazing. There are certain people who manage to have these amazing careers without ever making a feature film.
Yeah.
They become exorbitantly wealthy.
And certainly famous.
And very famous.
MacGyver. The guy
for sure.
MacGyver.
Yeah. He's one. Look, Lucille Ball was the first one.
Yeah.
Lucille Ball had next to nothing as far as a film career.
Yeah.
And then she went into radio and then television. And on television, she became freaking Desilu. She and Desi. They if not them, we'd have no Star Trek.
Yeah. The whole shebang.
Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Is another one.
Same thing. Yeah.
And I would even say Robert Conrad is one that people overlook. Robert Conrad has starred in so many TV shows. It's unbelievable. Hawaiian Eye,
Hawaiian Ass. That's right. Baba Black Sheep in the 80s.
Black Sheep. He had a number of failed shows, like there was that spy one where he drove that great old car. I forget what the name of that was. It was like I want to say Man from U.N.C.L.E., but obviously that's not it. The Duke. He played the boxer in the Duke, first show that had Larry Manetti, who'd go on to be on Magnum P.I. Yeah,
it is an interesting thing. Yeah, sure. I'm going to do a couple episodes of this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, not going to knock.
Sweet,
buddy of ours. Power Rangers Ninja Steel animated series, right?
Yeah.
Chaim Saban. I worked for him once. Didn't pay me. So screw him.
Well, the last one for TV is Sid Caesar: The Works. Over 13 hours of amazing Sid Caesar television. Sid Caesar, look. Sid Caesar shows, between our show of shows and Sid's Hour, I think it was what it was called. They gave us Mel Brooks. Yeah. They gave us Rob Reiner.
Imogene Coca was. Yes. Yeah, I mean she was around, but there she is.
They gave us Woody Allen. Mm-hmm. They gave us Neil Simon. I mean, you can go right down the line. It's unbelievable the people who started as writers on that show. It's extraordinary. And this is all fantastic stuff. You could not do a comprehensive box of all of Sid Caesar's stuff because it would be hundreds and hundreds of hours. It'd be ridiculous. You'd have to have it wouldn't be cost effective. But they've gone through and they put together the best of the best. And there's some amazing stuff here. And this isn't all just Sid Caesar. This is, there's some Mel Brooks stuff here and Carl Reiner stuff. There's even Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, and Billy Crystal saluting Sid Caesar at the Paley Center in 2014. There's a lot of really, really great stuff here. It's sort of the history of television as seen through the career of Sid Caesar, and it's fantastic. Sid Caesar, The Works. This is just unbelievably great, and if you love TV comedy and the history of TV comedy, you'll eat it up. Yeah. You'll absolutely eat it up. I want to make mention of some documentaries, by the way, really quickly, from Facets. These are all available special order as DVD-Rs. Facets, of course, has a great library. They do a lot of really, really cool stuff. That it's art film stuff. It's festival stuff. It's usually off the radar, but they have some amazing docs. And if you love great documentary filmmaking, you really, really should look into some of these. You can go to facets.org for more information on these. And I think that's pretty much the only place you can buy them. Might be able to get them on Amazon, but facets.org should be the beginning of your search. This is a production from 1996. It's an hour-long documentary from the Czech Republic, and it takes place at a school for the blind, and how these kids, despite being disabled, how they experience the world, what they do. It's really amazing how they express themselves artistically. It's so touching, and it leaves you wanting more. A filmmaker by the name of Semyon Aronovich, Russian filmmaker, in 1991 made a long but very powerful documentary called People's Gala Concert. This is a really, it's not at all what I expected it to be. This is looking at anti-Semitism at the end of Stalinism. And somehow they came up with archival footage that nobody has any business actually finding. It's astonishing to me that much of it actually even exists. But it is devastatingly, it's just creepy. It really, 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 it gets under your skin, and the thing you wonder is how on earth did that footage survive? Who shot it? When did they shoot it? Why did they shoot it? And how was it preserved? That's the thing. This stuff just it goes right to your jugular. Then we also have another Czech film from 2005 called Toyen by Jan Nemec. And this is all about the surrealist artist Toyen, and it's basically a portrait of him and his work and his life, and you know how he dealt with the oppressive regime of the Czech Republic when he was, you know, when it was under communist rule, and you know, the incredible intrigue of his experience during World War II. It's really quite an amazing story. I'm not familiar with Toyen or his work apart from watching this, but it's very, very good. Stardust Stricken is a portrait of Mohsen Makhmalbaf, the great Iranian filmmaker. This is by Hushang Golmakani, and this was made in 1996. It's only 70 minutes long. I wish it was longer. And this would never be made today. No Iranian film would be made about the Makhmalbafs today, or any Iranian filmmaker from the Iranian New Wave, for that matter. They're all too controversial. The Makhmalbaf house is one of the legendary family-run filmmaking operations in the history of Iran. Makhmalbaf himself is not just the only great filmmaker. His son is a filmmaker. His wife's a filmmaker. His daughter is extraordinary. Made a film called Blackboards, which is just miraculous. I almost think his daughter is the most talented one in the family. In any case, Mohsen Makhmalbaf, legendary figure, and this tells you exactly why. Where he came from, began as a film critic, like so many from the French New Wave, and goes through all of the how, you know, this all shaped his political activism as well. It's quite a movie, and it should be longer. And then we also have 2 volumes of Disruptive film, Everyday Resistance to Power. This is an ongoing series with facets. I'm going to presume that there will be more volumes. Basically, this you know, there are episodes to this, and they are what they're looking for are basically they're like little mini episodes about political resistance in the world, wherever it is and whatever it's against. All different kinds of countries, all different kinds of causes. But it sort of forms a collage of what political resistance looks like. From where it comes, and whether or not it actually ever leads to anything. So Disruptive Film Volumes 1 and 2, Everyday Resistance to Power, very, very good, also highly recommended.
Well. Foreign films?
Yeah, foreign.
Lucretia Martel's Zima. Very interesting film. Beautiful, beautiful film. Hypnotic, even. So this is...
I love her movies.
Beautiful movies.
Yeah.
This is a film about a guy who's working for the crown, for the Spanish crown. He's stationed in this backwater, out-of-the-way place that he hates. In South America, and he's been waiting for a letter from the king, giving him a different station. Meanwhile, he falls in love with this beautiful black woman, Central American woman. But what he really wants to do is go. But what he finds is that he falls more and more in love with her, and then years go by, and the letter doesn't come, and then it does. And that's the thing. Right, beautiful movie.
That's
right?
beautiful.
Right
That's
there,
That's
right
poetic.
There. That's poetic right there. You know what
Sure.
I mean? And it's actually an actually beautiful film. Not a whole lot on here by way of special features, but this is one of the Strand releasing. This is one of those situations where the movie speaks for itself. Strand releasing presents Lucretia Martel's Zima. You got one there?
Yeah, Suffering of Ninko from IndiePix. This is a DVD-R. This is all the IndiePix stuff is. The Japanese movie from 2016. You know, 25 years ago, this would have gotten a theatrical release. Japanese movies had a much easier time getting released here than they do now. It's much more difficult. But this is really a fascinating provincial movie. Most Japanese movies in the last few decades have been much more oriented towards the urban lifestyle in Japan. And not this one. Ninko, the title character, is a Buddhist monk who has a problem. Women cannot resist him. He's like Elvis. He's a Buddhist monk who's like Elvis to women. He just gets them worked up and they go nuts, right? He's like Elvis. He's like Elvis
Sexy monk.
wrapped around the Beatles or something. It's just anyway. And this goes to a very very weird experience, which forces him to on a kind of a Buddhist journey. I don't want to tell you what happens, but he has to go on kind of a Buddhist journey to sort of figure it all out. And that goes to a supernatural place that you do not expect and do not see coming, and it becomes almost like a Marvel movie in a very weird way. Again, the movie it takes some just weird, freaky turns, and but yet it's so interesting, and it even has some, there's like some animation in this that's really, really super cool. So the movie is The Suffering of, or just Suffering, no the, Suffering of Ninko. Really, really worth checking out. And this was at the Rotterdam Film Festival. Should have been at other film festivals as well. It's great. Suffering of Ninko from IndiePix.
Wicked cool. Bye Bye Germany, wonderful German film. So funny.
Oh, this is great.
It's set in 1946, just after the war. You have these sort of Holocaust survivors, is what they are. And they're doing all kinds of wacky things, working in the linen factory, doing this, that, and the other thing, all trying to make money. Why? Because they want to get the hell out of Germany and come to the United States. Because, post-war Germany is pretty tough. Marshall Plan and all of that. And it's a poignant and sweet film, but it's mostly funny.
Yep.
But that desire of that generation to make their way to America by hook or by crook is a really, really interesting thing because it represents something true and real. And it's kind of, it's kind of like a Ocean's 11. They plan this wild caper so they can get the money, get the tickets, get out of Germany. Funny, very, very sweet. Someone called it on the box here. Oh, the best German language film Joel and Ethan Coen never made.
That's
so
great.
you know that's interesting. That's Sherilyn Connolly of San Francisco Weekly. Way to go, Sherilyn.
Interesting Portuguese movie here called John From, made in 2015. And we don't see a lot of Portuguese movies these days, to be honest. And so it's always interesting to see some kind of a cool representation of Portuguese culture, especially in this one, which gets into it's basically one of these coming of age things set during a summer. Coming of age things always set during those hot summers. Anyway, it's about a teenage girl and her very unusual summer when she has I don't want to call it a romance, but it's an infatuation. Let's just say that there's an infatuation that takes her into all kinds of really interesting psychological tangents. I'll leave it with that. Beautifully shot in 16 millimeter, no less, and really quite interesting. There's a factor of the film that is sort of like what precipitates a lot of this is an exhibition on Melanesian culture. And the way that factors into the story is also very, very interesting. So I won't give anything else away. John From, F-R-O-M, exactly like it sounds, John From. Really interesting Portuguese film, worth checking out. And that is from Altered Innocence, a company that just came onto our radar. It's a Blu-ray from Altered Innocence.
Yeah, well, I'll knock this one out. Next time I'll aim for the heart. So Guillaume Canet in a Cedric Anger film.
Yeah. Guillaume Canet, who, by the way, is the husband of Marion Cotillard.
Yeah, Marion.
Writer and director and actor and everything else.
Wonderful actor in particular. He's very, very good. And this is De Palma-esque sort of chilling. 1978-79, there's a serial killer roaming around France. As it turns out, the very gendarme who is charged with finding the serial killer is the serial killer. Now, I'm not giving anything away. This you know in the first couple of minutes of the film. Everything else that goes on in this film is what's absolutely fascinating. It's not one of those who's the killer movies. You know who the killer is. What the hell is going on? It's what's much more fascinating about this film. Very powerful, well done, and executed. Nominated for 2 Caesar Awards. 2014's Next Time I'll Aim for the Heart. Wonder when they'll adapt this.
Good question.
It seems very adaptable.
It seems. It does. Yeah. Street Mobster from Arrow is something if you're a fan of Japanese Yakuza movies, as I am, you're definitely going to want to get this. This is it has fewer extras than Arrow titles usually have on Blu-ray. It's not loaded up with them, but it's a legendary film. It really is. You've got to see this. Made in 1972 by the great Japanese director Kinji Fukasaku. Most famous here for Battle Royale, but basically endlessly famous for his many great Yakuza movies,
Yeah.
primarily in the 60s and into the 70s. And Street Mobster is kind of like his Scarface. It's about a guy who's been in prison and he comes out and gets right back into it, and he's now in the heat of everything that he left 5 years earlier, but with a twist. And some really great direction in this. It's really powerful and it's brutal and it has wonderful performances. So that's highly recommended. Has a great audio commentary by Tom Mez, who's a huge expert on Japanese cinema, more so than I am for sure. And along with a trailer and stills, and it's worthwhile. Street Mobster by the great Kinji Fukasaku on Blu-ray from Arrow.
An astounding documentary called Bitter Money. I remember covering this on the show not too terribly long ago. That follows the plight really of 12 Chinese garment workers as they live their lives working in factories that sell the stuff that you buy, we buy,
Yep.
and Target and Walmart and Kmart and all of these sort of places. And it is a very, very different. In the context of today's issues regarding trade with China, this movie is all the more salient.
Yeah.
As we watch these women work 12-hour and 18-hour days, work on what should be their days off. They have left their children behind in the provinces, and sometimes they don't see their children for years at a time. Certainly not for months at a time, but often for years at a time. It's just a beautiful, powerful, disturbing movie, and it makes you think about commerce and free society and what it all means to someone, this little Chinese woman, 15,000 miles from here, for me to buy a T-shirt with Astro Boy on it.
Yep.
It's a hell of a movie, a very, very powerful. Bitter Money by Wang Bing.
Super interesting movie here from Cinema Libre, who normally does a lot of very politically oriented documentaries. And this is called Lou-Andreas Salome, The Audacity to be Free. This is by filmmaker Cordula Kablitz Post. And it's a really, really interesting biopic about a 19th century feminist of the title, Lou-Andreas Salome, who was part of the same social circle as many of the great figures of the era, including Friedrich Nietzsche. And it's all about her loves and her romances and affairs and her accomplishments and what she's, the conventions that she fought against, the things that she fought for. Really a fascinating figure that with whom I was not that familiar. The movie is an international co-production. Was made in 2018 with Russian, Italian, and German money. So it's kind of crosses all those countries and all those languages. They're sort of all mixed up in here, but it's really, really interesting. And it's worth a look. It really is. You're not going to recognize anybody in it. It's one of those foreign language films. It doesn't really. Probably never thought that it would have any appeal across the globe, but it really, really does. It's very, very interesting, and there's a really good commentary and interview with the director. And I also love the fact that given the subject matter and the fact that it's a female director, there's a little they have a thing here called it F-rated, female directed. Little logo, little stamp on it. Want to make sure that they're true to their subject matter.
Big Fist and Begonia. This is a wonderful little movie, animation.
That is a sweet film.
Sweet film. These creatures that live under the sea. And one is a restless young woman, and she wants to experience the human world. Well, she is allowed to experience it, but in the shape of a dolphin. And while in the shape of a dolphin, sort of experiencing what humans do, she's almost killed. And a young man comes to her rescue and does in fact rescue her, but loses his life in the process. And she becomes so guilty. She goes about the process of doing what it takes to revitalize him. It's a very Miyazaki-like film, but it's not Miyazaki. It's beautiful, it's lovely, it's sweet as anything you would ever want to see. And look, it might be a little sophisticated, a little old for small children, but any kid over 10, 11, 12 years old would probably get into this. Special features include a making of documentary, a short film inspired by the movie, music videos and whatnot. Lovely, lovely little movie. Big Fish and Begonia.
There's a wonderful Indian film called Hotel Salvation by, I'm going to do my best with the director's name, Shubhashish Bhutiani. Wow, That was better than I'd rehearsed it before. This stars the amazing actor Adil Hussein, for whom I am tremendously biased because he's actually he has a role in a movie that a very good friend of ours recently made. He's tremendous and he's a wonderful actor. Adil Hussein plays a guy who is burdened by the care of his father, who has said, "I want to live out my life at this place called Hotel Salvation, where people basically it's where you can live for the last 2 weeks of your life. That's it. It's designed to give people just a place to be for the last 2 weeks of their lives." And of course, this is all about going into that father-son place, that relationship between father and son, and grappling with it, and it's really, really a beautiful poetic movie. It's very, very well done. It comes with a bonus short film, as many film movement titles do, which is a Swiss-French short film that called "May the Night Be Sweet," which is just absolutely delightful, and it does really have something to do with the main film as well. So they're worth watching together. The film is called Hotel Salvation on DVD from Film Movement.
Oh, Phantasm, João Pedro Rodriguez film. This is a very, very good film from, I believe, Strand. Yeah. From Strand Releasing. João made a film called The Ornithologist and To Die Like a Man and Two Drifters. Sort of gay-themed films, but with very interesting context to them, including this one about a young man working in Lisbon, sort of a trash collector sort of job, and hating that and knowing that he wants more out of life, and suspecting that he's probably gay, but maybe not, and so he's experimenting with all of that, and he gets involved in trance and sort of like trance music, and it's just really, really a very, very, very intense film that delves into the mind of a young man who's trying to figure out his life in every possible way as he roams across Lisbon, the north of Lisbon. A powerful movie, Oh Phantasm, by João Pedro Rodriguez.
And we got a few little docs here to pump just here at the end of the show. One of them is 24 by 36. If you know anything, you know that 24 by 36 are the dimensions of a movie poster. And this is all about the art form of the illustrated movie poster. And I'm so glad somebody finally did this. I think there's even more to do on this, but this is an 82-minute documentary from 2016. With a half an hour of additional bonus interview footage, so it's you wind up with about a 2-hour movie, give or take, if you want to kind of lump it all together. That goes into the whole history of the what went into movie poster art, which is kind of a lost thing now. Everybody they just Photoshop the daylights out of these things, rip something else off.
Yeah, it all starts with a photograph now. They used to start with paintings or lithographs or all kinds of things.
There are artists who literally made entire careers out of these incredible graphic designs that would become movie posters.
Which were never called movie posters in the movie business, folks. No. They're called one sheets. If you work in the business, you call that a one sheet.
That's
it. You want to find an amateur? Catch somebody calling that a poster.
There you go. And anyway, this is a really, really cool doc. It's anyone who collects them, who wants to collect them, or who kind of misses that era, you will really, really love this. It's called 24 by 36. And then there is, I'll let you do that one.
What is this here? This is from executive producer Leonardo DiCaprio, who's going kinds of little docs over the course of his career.
He's also going to do the reboot of Facts of Life.
Yeah. He was. What was he on? No, he was on. He was on the one with Kirk Cameron. And Missy Gold, he came in late on that show, and you remember the Family, not Family Ties, but the other one with Alan Thicke.
Yeah,
he came in late on that show, and he played like the cousin that they adopted or something.
Dear.
So it doesn't surprise me after all. Anyway, executive producer Leonardo DiCaprio presents The Men Who Built America: Frontiersmen, and it's all about that. Daniel Boone and Andrew Jackson and John C. Fremont and Kit Carson, Davy Crockett and Lewis and Clark, who began their journey in my hometown of St. Louis and Tecumseh. Interesting characters all. I like that he's fairly straightforward regarding Andrew Jackson and what Andrew Jackson did to the nation, which was not all that great. But he gives everybody their due as well. So good stuff.
And then the very last one is the US Festival, 1982, the US Generation. This is a documentary all about the 1982 US Festival when I was in high school. I remember this so well. They wanted to have something that was like Woodstock.
Wozniak, right?
Wozniak was part of it. They want to have like a Woodstock for the West Coast. And next thing you know, out in this just desolate part of Santa Clarita up near Magic Mountain, they put on this big old honkin' festival. And, Tom Petty and the Police and Santana and the B-52s. And it was just unbelievable. The Cars, Rick Ocasek, they were...
This is well before Coachella, folks.
This is way before. And it was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was unbelievable. Everybody went up to that thing, and it was madcap, and I don't know what happened to it, but I do now. Anyway, lots of interview outtakes. They interview Wozniak. They talk to Stuart Copeland. They talk to everybody that they can. It's on Blu-ray. Amazing archival footage. You will love this. It is a great documentary. I'm so glad this finally happened. So with that, that's a Blu-ray and DVD combo set. I should point out DVD on this as well, but only watch it on Blu-ray. It's the only way you get the do justice to it. So with that, that's the U.S. Festival, 1982, the U.S. Generation, and we will see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
So just go ahead and send us an email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com with your name and address in the body of the email, and put red in the subject line, just RED red, and it'll get to us, and we'll pick 4 winners as long as you get it to us by Monday, August 6th. Monday, August 6th. We're going to give it 2 weeks because we don't have a show this next week. So Monday, August 6th. We'll give it 2 weeks, and we will see you then.